Welcome to Encountering Christ, a podcast about meeting Jesus in the ordinary moments of life, learning how to invite others into those encounters, and exploring practical ways to recognize Christ at work in our daily rhythms. Our prayer is that this time helps you see and share Christ more clearly. The last of the incommunicable traits of God that we're going to look at is God's unity or simplicity. This trait speaks to the manner in which God exists. Now, Grudem defines God's unity like this: God is not divided into parts, yet we see different attributes of God emphasized at different times. As humans, we are each different from one another. Some are more compassionate than others. Some are more matter-of-fact than others. Some cling to justice above grace, while others lean toward mercy over wrath. We all have different attributes that are more pronounced than others. However, I would surmise that most of us have all the human attributes, at least on some level. However, while we may all have all of the human attributes, we all have them differently in emphasis and scope. And this is a major contributor to who we are, or what we call our personality. The question is then, what is God's personality? How is He made up? The first thing to understand is that God has all the human personality traits: love, wisdom, mercy, justice, independence, wrath, blessedness, and many more. But what is different about God is that He has them to their fullness in perfection all of the time. God has the fullness of both love and justice, independence and compassion, peace and resolve. With God, these attributes are not merely how God acts, rather they are who He is. Now, so far, this is pretty easy to see, but we must also add in the attributes that are uniquely God. And this is where it becomes an incommunicable trait. You see, God is always the fullness of omnipotence, or the fullness of power. God is always the fullness of omnipresence, or present everywhere at all times, even beyond time, space, and matter. God is also eternal and in every time, backward and forward, and is Himself beyond time. God also is all-knowing. There is nothing that can be known that He does not yet know. And God is all of these always and at the same time. Now, this is impossible for us to truly understand. While we may understand the concept, we cannot understand what it is like. You might say we can only imagine its possibility. So what does this mean for us? It means that we are limited in that we are more likely to be more one thing than another. The movie trilogy that started with the movie called Divergent is an attempt at seeing a person that has all the traits equally. As the movie predicts, someone who has all the human traits can lead and accomplish life more adequately. And I think there may be a lot of truth to that. In other words, as humans, our personalities not only define us, they limit us. Another reality we have learned is that in marriage, opposites tend to attract. In other words, we have learned that our differences make us stronger, that two people together are wiser than one. We say it this way: we are better together. However, the problem that we humans have is our sinful nature. We have a tendency to use our traits and strengths to our benefit and not to the benefit of others unless we're helped by it. We have a tendency toward selfishness and greed and immorality and pushing the boundaries of righteousness for our own pleasure. This tendency does not, however, exist in God's nature. So let's put all of that together. God not only has all of the traits that we humans have, with the exception of our sinful nature, but God has all the good traits to their fullness and in perfection. And with God, It isn't a mere trait. It is who he is. For example, God doesn't just love greatly or greater than anyone else. God is love. God is justice. God is righteousness. God is grace, and on and on. And here's the takeaway. If two are better than one, as iron sharpens iron, how much better if God is one of the two? How much better if I am relying on and following God? Because God has every good trait. Not only that, God is every good trait to its fullness. And beyond that, God has the incommunicable traits as well. He is beyond and master of time, space, and matter. See, trusting God is the absolute wisest thing we can do with our lives. Getting advice from God is the wisest step. Trusting him with our lives is the most advantageous way to live. Learning from him is more profitable than the best university, because God is the very embodiment of every good trait and every eternal trait that can be. God is the unity of all good things to their fullness. So it might be a good idea for you to get to know him and follow him. It is the unity of God that teaches us you can trust God with your life. Trust God today and have a good one.